As a longtime member of the League of Women Voters, now defunct in Lebanon County, we had always strived to try to get as many people as possible to vote and to count as many votes as possible. Recently, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court passed a ruling that allows voter registration offices to enter into their SURE system a note that says that a ballot might have come in without a signature or without a date. If that information was entered into the SURE system, say I sent my ballot in 2 weeks early, and that information was entered into the SURE system, I would have 2 weeks to get in to fix that ballot to make my vote count, or that I would know that I could file a provisional ballot at my election place. But I understand that in Lebanon County, we are not going to put that indication into the SURE system. And it's not a criticism or anything, I'm just asking why.
Sean, do you want to address that first?
Well, we are already using those codes, and we're going to continue to use those codes. We start with the pre-canvassing with the legally defined window, and as soon as we find those ballots as we're processing, then we do use the SURE system codes to scan them in. Well, actually, we probably call people even before they get the email.
Okay, but it's my understanding that in the previous election, those codes saying that there was no signature or no date were only entered 2 weeks after the election, which really doesn't allow a person the time to vote a provisional ballot.
Mr. Chairman, could I?
Sure.
In light of the Supreme Court decision, we have actually been complying with the court from when the Commonwealth Court rendered their decision last year in this matter. It was involving a case that arose out of Washington County. In response to the Commonwealth Court decision before the presidential election last year, we implemented a policy where if a vote is set aside, if a ballot is set aside for missing a date, missing a signature, then the voter receives notification either from me directly or from a member of our election office. They do so, that is done on election day, and there's more of a personal touch with that communication than just getting an automated email. I personally, in November of last year, called about 200 voters and informed them that their ballot had been set aside and that they have the right to cast a provisional ballot, and that ballot will be counted. So that was the court. The Supreme Court recently affirmed the Commonwealth Court in saying that a voter has a due process right when their ballot is set aside, and they have the right to cast a provisional ballot and have that ballot counted. So in those two respects, we are compliant in that, and we are notifying voters. With respect to the codes, however, that's something after the decision was made. Sean and I, we had communication, mostly Sean with the Department of State, to ensure that what we're doing is compliant. And nowhere in the court case does it mandate that all 67 counties have to use the code system. And what it comes down to is counties that segregate the ballots as soon as the ballot comes in. We don't do that here in Lebanon County, and a number of other counties do not do that. So we are pre-canvassing beginning at 7 a.m. and that's when we are determining whether the outer envelope has an error. The other thing I just want to mention too is regarding the date. There was a federal case, there was a federal district court case, and it was actually just reaffirmed by the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, which is one level under the U.S. Supreme Court, that said that if a ballot is missing a date or has an incorrect date, it still has to be counted. So that court ruling from the federal court, that takes the number down even more. So for those people, they won't get a notification because if they're missing a date, because we're going to count it anyway. So,
but if somebody gets a phone call on election day telling them that they can vote provisionally, if they're out of town, they don't have the opportunity. If their ballot came in 2 weeks earlier and it was missing a signature and they were notified at that time, they would have time to make arrangements to be able to cast the provisional ballot, to make sure they're available that day. And it's my understanding that it's not considered pre-canvassing to check that and mark the SURE system ahead of election day.
anything to add?
not particularly. I mean, when we look at it, it does seem to be pre-canvassing. So,
But that's not what the court ruling said.
well, what
It said
Washington
that's not
County was
pre-canvassing.
doing was they were pre-canvassing before the election day, and they were segregating the ballots. And then, not only were they not contacting voters, they were also not accepting provisional ballots in addition to of the people who had cast the mail-in ballot, and then it had not been accepted. So they were like doing a double whammy. We've been pretty consistent with what Department of State guidelines have said, and we just screened it again just to make sure that we were still being in compliance.
And the confirmation from the Deputy Secretary of Elections, Jonathan Marks, indicated that we go above and beyond by making a phone call and an email address, because under the code system that's referenced, that Mr. Como references, it's an automated email that often maybe will go into a spam folder, and oftentimes too, you might have a lot of older voters that don't have an email address. The policy that we have here in Lebanon County is they get a phone call in addition to the email. And like I said, I personally talked to many voters on election day in May during the primary, and they were very appreciative of that, and they said, I'm gonna go and cast a provisional ballot right now. And then when we convene 3 days later, that provisional ballot is counted.
Okay, thank you for your in-depth response to that request. The only would be the approval of the minutes of our last meeting.
Motion to approve those minutes as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any additions, deletions, or otherwise comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, so moved. Now we can have the update.
Okay. We started, it went very, very smoothly. We finished about half a day earlier than usual, not because we were rushing anything, but because with help of Phil over in the warehouse, he had things very well organized, and they were able to fly through some stuff and not waste time setting up. So that all went very well. All the equipment tested through. We are currently wrapping up the logic and action testing of our pull pads. They're just down the hall here. That's a two-stage process. So the first stage just wrapped up. The second stage will be the week before the election. We have to wait until the most current data file is available before we can do that. So all that is going well. I wanted to get you these numbers a little bit earlier, but we have breaking numbers that are just coming in. So I thought you'd find them of interest because they're so fresh. We are at currently 92,954, just shy of 93,000 registered voters. So that's a high point since I started. When my first election was 88,000. And that breaks out to Democrat and Republican 24,968 and 52646. And again, I apologize for not having these before the meeting. We wanted to get you something as current as possible.
What year was the 88,000?
That was 2020. I ran that number in 2021. So again, a net, we're taking a lot of voters off the books, but we're just adding them even faster.
Did they die or something? Yeah.
And then we have some interesting mail-in. Joy just finished going through the mail-in numbers right before we walked in. If you wanted to share some numbers where we're at.
Yeah, we currently have approximately 1,970 mail-ins. Breakdown is 150 that have come into our office, approximately 1,700 that we've received by mail, and approximately 170 that have been received at the outside location.
And the overall numbers for mail-in ballots have ticked up a little bit more than we expected them to. We're at 94 requests so far, 9,494.
Any questions from anyone regarding those numbers? Okay, good information.
Yeah. And there's the one difference, there's one number jumped out at me when I was looking at all the data this morning that's different from the beginning of the year. In the city itself, we're at 14,018 voters, and the difference between the parties has grown a bit, and it's now 5,633 Dems and 4,956 Republicans. So there's now a 677 voter difference, and that was just over 400 6 months ago.
To which favor, I'm sorry?
It moved to the Democrats.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's explained. There is a post-presidential election, there's always a big drop-off for everyone, and it looks like it just slipped more in one direction than the other.
Well, I'm impressed because I don't see any gray hairs anywhere over here on this side of the table. So congratulations for getting through all this. I know it's always a challenge.
Shorter than I used to.
Anything else on the general updates?
Jamie's been working on a student.
This is my favorite part.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he's made some great strides with this.
Okay, I have sent packets to every public school in the county and followed up with emails. I have heard from Our Lady of the Cross. 2 students have reached out and wanted to be involved. And just Tuesday, I received 12 applications from Cedar Crest High School students. I'm still working on assigning them. I have most of them assigned. Lebanon High School, as usual, is involved, and I just spoke to the teacher liaison from Lebanon, and he expects that we'll have 2 students per ward as usual, so that's 30 students in the city, plus the 2 students from Our Lady of the Cross and the 12 from Cedar Crest, so we'll have about 44 students involved this year, which is just a little lower than we had for the presidential. I know that it's early in the year, so schools are just getting started.
Well, I think it's significant that it's not a presidential cycle,
Yeah.
and you still have close to the same numbers. That's very impressive.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep communication open with the schools, and I'm hoping that in the spring, I will definitely have more students and more schools involved, I'm hoping. I'd like to, with Sean's permission, maybe
Excuse
get
me,
us.
I'll acknowledge just a moment.
Yeah, I just.
You can put your hand down.
Okay.
I'd like to maybe get a section on our website with some frequently asked questions or something about the student program. Yeah, but that's where we're at with that.
Shockingly, students don't use a lot of paper forms.
No.
So if we are able to pull in just one more district, Elko or maybe Palmyra, we'll break 10% of our poll workers as students again.
Wow.
So in and off year, that's.
The packet is very professionally done and very detailed.
Could you put it in perspective, talk about, I believe this is a model program in the state.
Mhm. It is our state liaison leans on us and Jamie a lot. There are a lot of counties that are trying to do what we do, and the cornerstone is Lebanon High. Like they've been rock solid from the beginning, and the liaison at Lebanon High is phenomenal. So building off of that, we've got an interest from the other districts as well, and very excited to hear
Sounds
the
like a
private
good
schools.
story and the offing there. So we have another question from.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, are you able to reach out to any homeschool groups and maybe get some of their students involved?
I would love.
I would love to. That's one of the reasons why I like to get it on the website, so that those students can be involved as well. I have cyber school students, so once they're old enough, I'd love to be able to have them or like other cyber school students involved. That would be
I have a
fantastic.
list of homeschool organizations
Oh, that would
in
be
Lebanon
fantastic.
County. I'll quote, I don't
Oh,
know.
that would be phenomenal.
I
That
have
would be
yours, Sean.
amazing.
I'll send it
Yeah.
to you.
So
And, no, go ahead.
an interesting conversation that's come out of this, the work that Jamie's done, is speaking to the Department of State Deputy Jonathan Marks and his new deputy director reports to him. The success that's come out of this has drawn a light onto the fact that the student program does have certain awards they give schools and things, but the awards don't. The awards have inbuilt bias in the parameters where there are a lot of districts that it's simply impossible, even if they're very active participants in this program, they're never going to be able to reach those all the benchmarks to get the award. So we've been looking at ways to reevaluate the awards at state level based on some of the good work that's been going on. So it's great that we set these benchmarks up here, but there are certain things completely out of our control and outside of the school's control. So we're hoping that we can see Lebanon High recognized, at least since they've been participating for so long.
That's great.
Yeah. Sean has encouraged us to set goals for ourselves in the office, and one of my goals is in the next few years, I would like to see one Lebanon County win the governor's award.
They can win a gold award for having at least 85% of their eligible students registered to vote, and a silver award for at least 65%. So that's one of my goals in the next couple of years. I really want to see at least one Lebanon County school win. And we had talked about the Department of State liaison. She set up a program in Lehigh County before she started working for the state. And one of the things that she suggested for student poll workers was that we could write letters of recommendation for college applications or things like that. So I'm open to doing that. If that's what's gonna get these kids to come out and help us, absolutely.
Jamie, I'd just like to say thank you. I can tell this has become a passion of yours.
Yes.
And, you know, to have that in Lebanon County, in addition to all the great work our team is doing, you're doing a phenomenal job, and thank you so much.
Thank you. We've got some exciting things coming next year too, so.
All right, will keep us, that was a good tease.
Yeah.
Can I ask a couple of questions? One, what happened with the precinct, and you were looking at, I think the last meeting, the possibility of changing the precinct? What was the outcome of that?
We'd like to, QA.
Okay, precinct North Lebanon East, 2017.
Joy, could you move that mic a little closer? There we go.
North Lebanon East precinct is gonna remain where the Blue Max Bingo Hall was, which is now Oasis Religious Center. And then, beginning in 2026, we are gonna change to a new polling place.
They're very gracious to extend one more election for us.
Yeah, to follow up, Jim, after the meeting last time, the individual on behalf of Oasis Christian Fellowship called me back, indicated that we can remain there, and so there will be notification to the voters this November that beginning in for the April or May primary election for 2026, they'll be voting at a new location.
And I know, Sean, you've looked for canvassers in the past. Is that a problem for this election? You have plenty of canvassers?
Plenty. Yeah, we're all set. Yeah, we're running out of tables and chairs, so, yeah, we're all set. And with any luck, we're at, close to 10,000 mail-in ballots right now, so with the number of canvassers we have, we are projected to be done by about 1 o'clock on election day. And then doing the same thing, coming back at the end of the day to count the remaining 100 or 200 that are left.
We won't hold you to that.
Ooh.
But thank you very much. Great teamwork and great representation for the county, and especially the outreach to the schools. That just, produces strong voting records in the future, by getting them in there, in front of them, at that age. So that's great. Thank you. Anything else for the good for this part of our meeting?
Yeah, if I could just again, back to Mrs. Trukalo's comment and applaud your efforts, everyone involved in the League of Women Voters over the years to encourage people to vote and count every vote. We certainly share that sentiment, and these people work their tails off to get that done, and I think we're making reasonable more than reasonable efforts to help ensure that, I have to say too, that the regulations about mail-in votes aren't that complicated, that requires a signature and a date, and it's hard for me to imagine that we got so many in the last election that we actually had to contact them and remind them with all the publicity and all the court cases and everything else, and we're still getting ballots that don't have a signature or a correct date, and it's just, that part baffles me.
Commissioner Kuhn, now that we're accepting all these categories, this number is going to be tiny, like 10, 20 total vote, like that total that may be affected this election. So hard to know exactly, but it's so small. It will be barely a percentage note.
I'm not sure. Question was about Jonestown. Do you want to mention anything?
Everything's locked and loaded.
So the press is here, they can.
It's a municipal year. We have, we try to keep everything on 2 ballots, and There are some that can push off onto 3. Jonestown will have a 3rd page this time around, and we're gonna be sending out the 3rd page tomorrow because they've already received the first 2. So they just they'll be coming in a separate package. And on election day, it'll be treated, there'll just be the 3 pages on election day. This will impact about 70 voters. I think we only have, I didn't check this morning, but we only had 3 back from Jonestown packages back, so we'll just.
About 75, but 72 the other day.
It was 72, yeah. And I think we have 3 back.
Thank you. Anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So then?
Second.
Thank you, folks. We stand adjourned.